Okay, so I guess it's time to go live. Cool. All connected, all on. Everything seems to, everything is on. So, welcome to the Wednesday's Science Review. And today I bring you a very interesting perspective. Um, from healing and martial art roots to global health practice. Reimagining Tai Chi Chuan, Tai Chi Chuan, in the modern public fitness movement. It's first of all, it's not scientific paper in the way that we've seen others being that we've talked about. It's more, I'm going to call it an opinion article, but it's very interesting the way that it approaches things, and I I believe it brings value. It brings tremendous value from the way that we should look into martial arts, Krav Maga, and kind of the future where we have a more integrated world in terms of what's called internal martial arts and external martial arts. So what does that mean? Why all of these I'm going to say all of these differences between what is an internal martial art, what is an external martial art, why should you care, okay, about that? So I'll walk you through this. Um, pull some of the notes that I've got from the article so that we use this to the best extent. Um, Again, tai Chi is referred to Tai Chi Chuan in Chinese. Okay, it's an internal martial art. What that means is that, well, I'll give you the opposition. An external martial art is when you have something or someone applying force to you, pushing you or pulling you or something like that, and based on that you do an action. Got it? So gravity is always present. That's obeying the laws of Newton. Gravity is always present. It's like a force. It's always a force that's out there. And then what I would say the key thing in here is that an internal martial art is when you move by the power of your thoughts, and you decide to move the center of mass, you decide to move your feet based on some kind of pattern in order for you to regain balance or do something. Okay, could be a shape, could be raising the arms. I think that's an interesting distinction because you've seen people, at least you see these images of older people on parks, and they are moving here and there, and they do things with their hands. So this is not a brand new randomized clinical trial. Okay, this is an opinion article, being clear. It was published in September 2025 in the Frontiers in Public Health. And it does have, in this case, it was published by Buzhou Wenqin from the College of Physical Education in China, and Yang Zhang. It's a person like you and me, probably that has no academic affiliation, but I like it because this article brings together three things: history, philosophy, and evidence. I do have some comments on the evidence, but nevertheless, when you combine all of these things, it did force me to ask, what does it mean for martial arts like Krav Maga, like karate, the ones that I know, okay, the ones that I know really deep, like what does what what does an article coming from an opinion of someone published in public health? I think this is important, okay, where it was published, or even for the way that we teach self-defense this way. So, but I want to break this and start from understanding what the heck is this, right? So let's start with history. Tai Chi, I'm going to call it by Tai Chi, that didn't just appear as a slow movement for old people in parks. It was part of a cultural transformation done by the Chinese government, and that is very, very interesting. Okay, so it came out of the battlefield. It comes out of the Taoist and the Confucian philosophy. I believe it comes out of survival. You will see there is extreme training coming from Buddhist monks in the temples of Shaolin. And these guys were trained as fighters, okay? Then later on, philosophy comes in, or probably at the same time, and it helps them go into the grueling training, okay? So I want to make sure that you see these as, they probably did a good, that there's a good, I'm going to say a good connection between the two things, the internal and external martial art. You see the Shaolin monks do feats of extreme hardship. They use something like an internal force that is not well documented enough in terms of science. It's called chi or ki. Something that we cannot see, but overall in medicine is being approved in Germany. Germany does pay, their insurance policies do pay people when they do things like acupuncture and qigong. It's really different, right? So there is this key distinction that I'll go back. External martial arts like karate, Krav Maga, Muay Thai, you deal with this outside force. Someone is really trying to hit you. You block, you strike, you spar, okay? An internal martial art, and I'm gonna say this, guys, of course Tai Chi will have, I'll speak more about potential overlaps, okay? Internal martial arts like Tai Chi and Qigong, it's even before that, you don't have an opponent. You don't push or pull, you move from thought, okay? And this is the intention that creates that execution. Now, in Shine Tai Chi, you've got push hands. It's very competitive, okay? They also have joint locks, and it's about timing. But you think about the archetype of the Tai Chi practitioner I think that's the cool thing. That person should be, not in this case at that time, prior to all of this transformation, was more than just a fighter. It's also a healer and a philosopher. I think that is very interesting. I don't see, or I haven't seen in the world of Krav Maga anyone being considered a healer. Probably a philosopher, right? Because you deal with fighting, and I think that's universal overall. That is, I believe that at least in Krav Maga, in my school, we talked about being a protector, a leader, and a force for good. That's just how I played out the message. Okay, it might not be exactly the same, but that's what I believe, and what I believe it's really important. Now, Tai Chi, as we've initially started to talk about, didn't stay in the battlefield, okay, as a combat martial art, and that is interesting because Krav Maga is, I would say, if you take this for granted, Krav Maga comes from that battlefield, and in case of Tai Chi in the 20th century, it was stripped of its exclusivity. It was simplified, standardized, and brought to the public. You guys see this in the history of martial arts happening tremendously, right? UNESCO even recognized it as an intangible cultural heritage. It becomes a cultural symbol, like in Portugal, right? In Portugal, Fado, that is our traditional song, or it's an heritage. It's like tremendous, right? So they've built something like, it's called the 24 form and the 42 form. These are systems designed so that people all over the world could practice. If you did karate, like we have katas, okay, think about these as katas. But when you see traditional Chinese movements, you see them much more circular versus straight line. It's a different way. What is curious about this is that China calls this democratization of access. And this is the crazy thing, right? So China, or mainland China, the Republic of China, uses the term democratization, at least in the article. It's very curious that we need to democratize access to Tai Chi. Definitely not a country that is democratic, but they want to democratize the practice. And that's worth thinking about. I think from a perspective, what they did, my view of the world is that they wanted, because Tai Chi does have evidence that it works, okay, it helps your health. So let's bring it to everyone. So it's kind of, let's have democracy for the things that we believe are good, and not for everything like freedom of speech and human rights. Like, completely mad, right? But in this case, democratization of access, that's what it means. Now, let's look at the evidence. Look, the article pulls like tons. It has 2 pages of evidence. I went through the evidence review and through the articles. Some of them I would know. Others are books as well, but it has like a really interesting list of evidence. According from dozens of these studies, this is what it shows. From the metabolic side, Tai Chi improves insulin sensitivity, lowers HbA1c, tremendous, right? Reduces inflammatory markers like CRP and TNF-alpha. Wow, right? You go inside, you mix all the parts and you get them better. From the musculoskeletal point of view, okay, so things that have to do that you can effectively see and feel more. Stronger bones, spine and femoral neck. Better balance and reduce fall risk. I was reading all of these and like, what is happening in here? From the psychological point of view, according to the author, again, this is not randomized, this was not subject to peer review, but randomized controlled trials show moderate to large improvements in depression and general well-being. We know that from sports, but it's interesting that they've used this for specifically for Tai Chi. From the neurological side, imaging studies suggest improved connectivity in brain regions for executive function and attention. I do doubt this. I do because there is almost no decision taking. Okay, no decision making. No one is striking, no one is pushing. I doubt this. We need to research more over there, but most likely some parts of the executive function and attention could work better. My view. Could work because as you go through the forums, you have to decide where to put the weight. It's just a different type of decision, okay? So, quoting the study, Tai Chi significantly increased balance and control and lowered fall risk in postmenopausal women. This is big, okay? This is really serious. That's not just soft stuff. It's really measurable impact according to the authors of the study. I think this needs more and going into depth into here. Now, here's I'm going to say here's the kicker for this. The author ends this by saying like, Tai Chi has to go digital, right? Applications, apps, wearables, telehealth, and guess what? It's already happening. As I research more on this, the Center for Disease Control have a program called Tai Chi, Moving for Better Balance. It's adopted in more than 40 states. There are strong clinical results, and there is an instruction certification. You guys, please ask me. I'll share this in the newsletter, but there is an overall tremendous studies behind. They are published in PubMed. I went through it. It's real. It's good. It's really good. So there is something over there. It was adopted in more than 40 states. The adoption, like 40 states in America, but it was adopted in more places than it was adopted, the whole New Jersey. But there is an interesting site. There is an interesting research over there. There is an instructor plan. All seems nice. There is research behind. Even the pictures look good, to be fair. So there's something very, very interesting over there. Next step. Okay, let me edit this. Digital without AI is nothing. I think the author, for some reason, didn't talk about that. But I do believe that what's going to happen is this. AI will be checking your posture, predicting your fall risk, and adapting your training plan. That's definitely going to happen. Got models like VO3 that can do that. So that's VO3 needs to be trained, but nevertheless it can do. I've done it with things in Krav Maga. So, and for Krav Maga, well, imagine AI tracking your explosiveness and your reaction time and your decision under stress. This is really, really interesting. Something that I've been writing about and preparing some things, but we need to go deeper. So I do believe that if you guys listen to the podcast, I'll go deeper on this, okay? So that's it, to be fair. Today and for the live breakdown is Tai Chi is an internal martial art. It has recognized health benefits. It's part of a, I'm going to say, global culture. And this digital future that's already starting. It already started in the US. So that you guys have an idea, according to the author, again, there are 300 million people doing Tai Chi. That's a lot of people. The data here shows that 1.5 million are in the US. Okay, so you're gonna think about this. 1.5 million, it's a lot of people. Okay, a lot of people. We probably have to correlate that with the numbers of people that do karate, judo, BJJ, and Krav Maga definitely, because it's a very small bracket of people. But the other 298 million where are they? Are in China, right? So that's a lot of people. That's a lot of data. That's not a lot of knowledge and a huge amount of ways to learn about these. So first of all, having that global cultural makes me think a lot about what to do with Krav Maga. What are you going to do with these, right? Bring Krav Maga into a new standard where effectively can be proven and it's reduced and changes the way that the postures work. Do we take off the attacker? Do we bring other types of things? It's very interesting, I think. And I also believe that the digital future that was not mentioned in the article made me think that everything that we do today has to have a digital future and an AI future. It appears to be so. It appears to be most likely the only way that we are going to succeed as a martial artist, instructor, trainer, and even as a practitioner, that you're going to get to be better informed. So thanks for tuning in live, and for those listening to the podcast, do stay with me. I'm going to share a very personal story, digging a bit more into AI, and talk about what comes next. See you live next, folks. Okay, every Sunday, every Wednesday, we dive deep into the science that supports martial arts training. Enjoy.